right to let you talk, say what you want.
No, it's just unfortunate that this is such a materialistic world, and in order for people to give you the kind of, what shall I say?
In this life, I love music, and music is my love, you know, it's all.
Brother is gone. I couldn't believe it that father chose to take him out.
Marvin Gaye was a voice of soul, a musical genius, whose songs define an entire era. But if you clicked on this video, you know the truth. His life was not one of peace. It was a life defined by intense, bitter conflicts that destroyed him from the inside out. The title mentions 4 people he hated, and these relationships were complex, dark, and fueled by more than just professional rivalry. To understand the conflicts that poisoned his career and personal life, you first have to understand the one single conflict that started it all, the one that created the blueprint for all his pain. That root conflict was with his father, Marvin Gaye Sr. Born in Washington, D.C., Marvin grew up in what should have been a place of worship, the house of God. His father was a minister in a strict Christian sect, a fusion of Orthodox Judaism and Pentecostalism that imposed a rigid moral code. Young Marvin sang in the church choir from age 4, his father often accompanying him on piano. He became a soloist, and this environment gave him his deep spirituality and love for gospel music. But the house of God was also a house of pain. His father ruled the home like a cruel, changeable, all-powerful king. From age 7 into his teenage years, Marvin endured what his sister called a series of brutal whippings for any perceived shortcoming, no matter how minor. The punishment was relentless and sadistic. His father would prolong the beatings, savoring the moment. By age 12, Marvin said there wasn't an inch on his body that hadn't been bruised and beaten by him. The torment was not only physical, but psychological, designed to break his spirit. His only comfort was his mother, Alberta, whose love he credited with saving his life. Without her, he believed he would have been a child suicide case. This dynamic created a template. Marvin would spend his life seeking approval from powerful father figures, only to inevitably rebel against them to assert his own identity. At 17, desperate to escape, Marvin dropped out of high school and enlisted in the Air Force. But he couldn't adjust to regimentation and authority, leading to an honorable discharge. Music became his true means of escape. He joined doo-wop groups, and his talent caught the attention of Harvey Fuqua, a benevolent mentor who brought him to Detroit and Berry Gordy's Motown Records. Upon arriving, Marvin added an E to his surname, becoming Marvin Gaye, partly as homage to Sam Cooke, but also to distance himself from the word gay, a sensitivity likely heightened by his father's rumored cross-dressing. He aspired to be a sophisticated crooner like Frank Sinatra, but his first album was a commercial failure. That pattern of rebellion played out first with Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown Records and also Marvin's brother-in-law. Berry was the architect of the Motown sound, a hit-making machine built on polished, apolitical songs about love and heartbreak. Marvin delivered massive hits for the label, including I Heard It Through the Grapevine, which became Motown's best-selling single of its era. But he felt creatively trapped in the hit factory, yearning for deeper artistic expression. The tension exploded over the album What's Going On. In 1970, reeling from the death of his duet partner, Tammy Terrell, and devastated by his brother Frankie's letters from Vietnam, Marvin wrote a soulful, jazz-inflected plea for peace and understanding. When he played it for Barry, the Motown chief was appalled. He called it the worst record I ever heard in my life and said it would ruin your career. But Marvin was resolute. He gave Barry an ultimatum: put it out or I'll never record for you again. For 7 months, they were locked in a bitter power struggle. The stalemate broke when Motown executives Harry Balk and Barney Isles pressed and released 100,000 copies in January 1971 while Barry was out of the country. The single sold 2 million copies. The public's response forced Barry's hand, and he challenged Marvin to deliver an entire album within 30 days. Marvin met the deadline, and the album became a cultural landmark that shattered the Motown mold and established soul music as a vehicle for social commentary. This mutiny against his boss and brother-in-law secured his legacy, but it was just the start of his battles. It's hard to believe a label would reject one of the greatest albums ever made. What do you think is the biggest artist versus label fight in music history? Let me know in the comments. And if you're finding this story as wild as we do, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives. The rebellion extended into his personal life. In 1963, Marvin married Anna Gordy, Barry's sister. She was 17 years older than Marvin, a glamorous, sophisticated woman who became his muse and inspired his 1963 hit, Pride and Joy. In that song, he celebrated the stability and love she brought to his life. The significant age difference suggests she was not only a romantic partner, but also a stabilizing, maternal figure for a young man who had known nothing but chaos. They adopted a son in 1965, though it was later revealed the boy's birth mother was Anna's young niece. But despite its inspirational beginnings, the marriage was intensely volatile, scarred by mutual infidelities and violent outbursts, sometimes in public. By 1973, Marvin left her for a 17-year-old girl named Janice Hunter. The divorce settlement was brutal and unprecedented. Marvin claimed he was broke. So in 1977, a judge ordered him to pay Anna alimony from the proceeds of his next album. His initial plan was to record a quick throwaway record, but his artistic conscience took over. The result was the 1978 double album, Hear My Dear, a sprawling, unflinchingly honest, and often scathing musical autopsy of their entire relationship. Through songs like When Did You Stop Loving Me? When Did I Stop Loving You and You Can Leave? But It's Going to Cost You. Marvin chronicled their journey from tender infatuation to acrimonious divorce. The album's artwork featured a Monopoly-style game board and a mock sculpture as the holy temple of matrimony collapses. Anna was so incensed by this public airing that she considered a $5 million invasion of privacy lawsuit, though she never filed it. Initially, a commercial failure, the album has since been recognized as a masterpiece of raw emotional honesty. The third conflict was with singer Lou Rawls. This rivalry was purely professional, a competition for status and awards, specifically the Grammys. Both were celebrated vocalists from gospel backgrounds. At the 1977 Grammys, Marvin's I Want You was nominated for Best R&B Vocal Performance. Male against Rawls' You'll Never Find Another Love Like Mine. Rawls won. This loss stung Marvin deeply. He even said, half-jokingly, that he wanted to tackle Lou Rawls for taking the award he felt was his. For Marvin, awards were not just trophies. They were vindication for his artistic battles and confirmation of his place at the apex of his craft. But the rivalry with Teddy Pendergrass was fundamentally different. If Rawls was a chess match, this was a volatile, high-stakes psychological war. Pendergrass emerged in the mid-1970s as a solo superstar, cultivating a powerful, macho, overtly sexual persona that directly challenged Marvin's reign as soul music's foremost lover man. Marvin saw Pendergrass as an usurper, accusing him of copying his style, even his signature beard. The conflict escalated into something dangerous and deeply personal through Marvin's second wife, Janice Hunter Gaye. In her searing 2015 memoir, Janice revealed the profoundly disturbed and paradoxical nature of her husband's psyche. Marvin actively encouraged her to have affairs with his chief rivals, including Pendergrass. This desire stemmed from a perverse, voyeuristic need to witness what he called the fall of his angel. He told her that to watch purity turn to perversity was a fascinating thing. He said, and it is exciting to watch the fall. But this bizarre encouragement was pathologically fused with explosive, violent jealousy. The same man who pushed his wife toward his rival would then stalk them on a date. Janice recounted an evening doing cocaine with Pendergrass, while a paranoid Marvin watched from outside. At his most unhinged, he held a knife to her throat and threatened her life, tormented by the very infidelity he had orchestrated. This dynamic reveals the profound contradiction at the heart of Marvin's lover-man persona. The image of the sensitive, confident seducer was a fragile artistic construct. In private, he was consumed by insecurity, paranoia, and a need for control stemming from his childhood trauma. These external battles eventually turned into a fatal internal one: severe cocaine addiction, depression, and paranoia. His 1982 comeback, Sexual Healing, topped the charts for 10 weeks and earned him his first 2 Grammys. But this comeback masked a deep personal decline. Years of extravagant spending, divorces, and debts to the IRS left him destitute. After completing his final tour in August 1983, an exhausted Marvin retreated from the world. He made a fatal mistake. He moved back into his parents' Los Angeles home. This return placed him directly back under his father's roof, reigniting the conflicts that had festered for decades. Living with his father proved catastrophic. The two men fell back into their old patterns of violent quarrels. On April the 1st, 1984, the day before Marvin's 45th birthday, the lifelong tension reached its breaking point. His father was berating his mother, Alberta, over a misplaced insurance document. Marvin intervened, shouting, "You can't talk to my mother like that." A physical fight erupted, and Marvin severely kicked and punched his father. Minutes later, his father returned with a .38 caliber revolver, a gun Marvin himself had given him for protection, and shot him twice at point-blank range. The first shot was fatal, piercing his heart, lung, liver, and stomach. This was not just a simple murder. The tragedy was compounded by the haunting suggestion that Marvin had orchestrated his own death. His brother Frankie recounted Marvin's last words, "I got what I wanted. I couldn't do it myself, so I made him do it." This statement points toward a tragic suicide by proxy. Marvin had been expressing suicidal wishes for months. His sister confirmed that their father had repeatedly threatened to murder any child who struck him. Knowing this, Marvin's assault was not just rage in defense of his mother. It was a deliberate provocation, a final act to trigger the fatal response he couldn't enact himself. He forced his abuser to become his executioner. His death shocked the world and solidified his legend. He was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. His legacy is that of an artist who transformed profound personal pain into universal beauty. His true genius was his ability to alchemize his personal hell into a heaven for his listeners. What's Going On came from his rebellion against Berry Gordy. Here, My Dear turned a bitter divorce into high art. Every conflict that destroyed him as a man fueled his transcendence as an artist. Marvin Gaye's legacy is a painful paradox. The very conflicts that caused him immense suffering were the ones that drove him to create music of enduring beauty and power. His music will live forever. What is your favorite Marvin Gaye song? And does knowing the story behind his pain change the way you hear it? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.